What's up, man? It's Lies on Plug. In today's video, we're going to be discussing the real Africans from Africa teaching the indigenous copper-colored people that they was from Africa. And when I found this out, it really shocked me because I was really digging and trying to find information on how our people was really starting to think we was from Africa and really get indoctrinated. I always used to think that the white people, when we integrated into school, taught us that we came from Africa. When in reality, even before we integrated, it was the real Africans teaching the copper-colored indigenous people that they were from Africa. And when I found out, I'm like, man, the indoctrination started way before we started integrating with these white people in schools. And when I found out, it shocked me. So I'm gonna show you guys the video, and for you people that about to start talking junk and saying that we're all African, that's BS. Because in our last video, I showed you the indigenous elder in the 1900s. When she said she was living in the 1900s, she said there was a difference between the colored person and the African person. So all that Pan-Africanism is dead with. It's gone. Get rid of it. So let's look at the video.
The following program is from NET, the National Educational Television Network.
The people now called Negroes are the most written about and the least understood of the world's people.
This term, Negro, demoralizes us and is detrimental. I feel it doesn't give us any association past the slave ship.
I think that the first task of people of African descent, whether in the United States or in Africa or elsewhere, is to get rid of this slave named Negro.
This curious word Negro was seldom or never used in Africa itself. And this word has no meaning, or no worthwhile meaning at all, in Africa. I would doubt myself if it has any useful meaning anywhere else.
What is a Negro? A simple question. But the answer is not
That's
so
the real
simple.
African right there. These are the real Africans. They don't look like us. And this is how we started to get indoctrinated right here.
My name is Ossie Davis. I'm an actor and a writer, and the narrator of our series of programs on the history of the Negro people. I am also a Negro.
And he called his own self a Negro. See, he indoctrinated already. He's trying to teach us, trying to tell us of our history when we has nothing to do with, we're not African. It has nothing to do with us. So already he indoctrination calling himself a Negro. Already.
What is a Negro? In Africa, the word Negro has no meaning. In Brazil, a Negro is a man who's very poor and very black. And in the United States, a man who has any quantity of Negro blood, or whatever that is considered a Negro.
Exactly. That don't even make sense. See how these people be making stuff up out of nowhere? What? They have the word Negro and Negro blood. What is Negro blood? Like I'm trying to say, oh, it's African blood. Negro blood's African blood. These people just make up anything. Just so they can reclassify you over and over again. This is how they do it.
Are Negroes a race, a people, or a condition? Our programs will be asking this question in many ways and in many different settings. Our odyssey will take us throughout the world to Africa, where we will explore the relationship of American Negroes to the land of their origin.
And see, this is the problem I have. They always got to include anybody with the skin, with a dark skin or melanated skin. They always got to put them back to Africa. See, already they messing up, trying to go all the way back to Africa. When I showed you guys the census that in 1790 they said they only brought in 100,000 slaves, but we look at the 1790 census, we got over 400,000 people here. So who are those people? They was already here. So why are you trying to go back to Africa and try to put that narrative on everybody that with their skin are from Africa. You see what I'm saying? Come on, man.
To Brazil, where we will ask, is Brazil a racial paradise? And throughout the United States. Our aim in this series is both a modest and an ambitious one. We will be asking many questions and perhaps answer only a few. For there is a vast ignorance of Negro history among whites and Negroes, and the job of filling this vacuum is massive. Do Negroes have a heritage and a tradition like the Greeks, the French, the Anglo-Saxons? Or are we something less, as others have portrayed us? Everywhere we have looked, we have seen Negroes as savage and barbaric.
Y'all caught that? Talking about savages. That word savage was applied to the Indians. Us. We ain't no Africans. For real.
Humble and self-sacrificing.
They already show these indoctrinated films.
And childish.
How they shot
and
portray us.
inferior. You know, I remember as a kid coming from some of the pictures, and we spent the whole time from the motion picture house to home satirizing the Negro performances we saw in the film. Well, it was also an admission that somehow or other this was, to some degree, what we were. Now, these important and very, very impressionistic things that we got from these films did, to some degree, govern our behavior. When a Negro child goes into a movie, for instance, and sees himself or sees another Negro in an unfavorable light, he feels, to some degree, threatened. He feels uncomfortable, and a great deal of his laughing at that situation will be the kind of laughter that protects him. It's a nervous attack against him, himself, the way he looks at himself, the esteem with which he holds himself, and how he will rate with his fellows in the streets. You know, it's seeing something happen to you that you can't control, which leaves a scar, which leaves you feeling inadequate. You know, you don't feel loved. You're ashamed to look at yourself, ashamed to go home, ashamed to talk to the boys next door, ashamed even to ask these questions of your parents, although sometimes you do. It's a horrible situation, and sometimes we never get over that.
As a Negro, I honestly tried to believe that I was somebody, and I've always fought during my life to keep that feeling that I did have some value. And I say value knowing what that word means. And there's been many a night in my life when I went to sleep and known very deep inside me that I really wasn't worth much.
I still do not really know what being a Negro is or what it means. It means that my skin is a little bit darker. It means that my cultural exposures have been somewhat different to other ethnic groups. It may even mean that as a human being, I might be more sensitive to need and despair.
Oh yes, you know, that wish I was white kind of thing, when you begin to sort of get the feeling of difference, like maybe you're dirty, something's wrong. But there was that feeling, you know, so early you can't even remember where it started. I'm not over it yet. It's part of my American heritage.
We were told we were a people without a past and without a future. And Negro boys and girls learned before very long that they were something special.
This right here is doing integration.
At an early age, as soon as you start school, you begin to catch on to the whole racial thing. But once you get into school, you begin to know it and know there's a difference, and that the difference is against you.
There's no real reference to me as a Negro or to my father or any of the other Negroes who have contributed so much to the growth of the United States. And I really can't understand it.
I'll never forget the picture in the geography book of a couple of very ragged Africans, you know. Weeks before we got to the lesson, we were steeling ourselves for it. Some Negro child would find the picture first in the book before we got to the lesson and alert everyone. Look on page 22, you see what's there. And then we dreaded reaching that lesson because it was always something about the savages not knowing anything. And we had to sit there and hear this, and instinctively...
See, this how Indoctrination started right here, through the schooling. And they said they saw images of Africans. Well, we ain't Africans. So they saw that in the classroom trying to get us to mentally think that we the Africans. We descent from them people when we wasn't. Like I said, we was already here. I already debunked the translated slave trade. I already debunked it. We was already here. Over 4 times the amount of the slaves that they brought in, we was already here, of the population. So it's done with.
White children would turn and look at the Negro children, you know, while this lesson was going on.
And so Africa became our shame and our torment. We were told that our past was barbarism and the white man our redeemer. Slavery was not a sin, but salvation. If few of us had anything to look forward to, we were afraid to look back. In 1958, Lorraine Hansberry wrote a play, A Raisin in the Sun, that showed the conflicts created for American Negroes by their African past.
All this is indoctrination. It started in 1900. Indoctrination.
Well, what have we got on tonight? You are now looking at what a well-dressed Nigerian woman would wear. Isn't that beautiful?
Hey, look, honey, we're going to the theater. We're not going to be in it, you know.
George, I don't like that. Do you expect this boy to go out with you looking like that? Well, now that's up to George, if he's ashamed of his heritage.
Oh, dear. Oh, dear. Here we go again. A lecture on our African past, on our great West African heritage. In 1 second, you know, we're going to hear about the great Ashanti empires, the Songay civilizations, the sculpture of Benin, the poems and the Bantu, and then the whole monologue is going to end up with the word heritage. Let's face it, baby, your heritage ain't nothing but a bunch of raggedy spirituals in some grass huts.
Grass huts? Oh, you see, George, you think you would rather stand there in your splendid ignorance and know absolutely nothing about the people who were the first to smelt iron on the face of this earth while the Ashantis were performing surgical operations when the English were still tattooing themselves with blue dragons.
At the Heritage Program of How You Act, a federally sponsored effort to develop better opportunities for Harlem's Negro youth, a new version of African history is being taught. Robert Moore is a visiting lecturer.
This is the real African teaching the African people. That is from Africa.
Do you think that the so-called Negro would dignify his identity by associating himself with his ancestral background from Africa?
After some 3 or 4
this is the white dude teaching.
transplantation,
They're gonna show a real African teaching soon.
Into America, it is obvious that we are not Africans anymore. We are Afro-Americans.
Indoctrination.
Americans of African ancestry. And that connects us, basically, with our original heritage and culture.
And he's saying us, he white.
The accomplishments of Africa.
This is the real African dude.
Director of the program is John Henrik Clark.
Is generally glossed over or neglected in human history. A lot of this, the misconception of Africa and the distortion of African history is involved in a word that is relatively new, the word Negro, a kind of nickname that grew out of European.
So if the word is new, what were they using before to classify people? It was colored. It was colored. And you go back further than that. When the colonists came, they said they saw copper-colored people. Same goddamn people. Same people.
Laziness, the inability or the
lack of a desire to give Africans their proper identity in the period when the Europeans had to justify the exploitation of Africa and the demeaning of a whole people. They systematically started the effort to read the African out of human history.
A great deal of our ignorance of African history sits upon the old conservative racial discrimination and prejudice which we have had in Europe.
Basil Davidson is a British writer and historian on Africa.
United States. It still sits upon the belief, perfectly unscientific, quite unbased in any scholarly discipline, that the Africans, that is to say, if you like, the Negroes, are people of some sort of inferiority to others and therefore have not been able to develop in the same way. Now, you know the great myth of the colonial era. The great myth took the shape of saying that the Africans, the Negroes, are children, and because they are children, it's said, failing to develop, we, the Europeans, you, the Americans, must go in there and show them the way they should go, civilize them, introduce them to the blessings of orderly life. One of the misunderstandings, you see, about Africa is the apparently primitive material nature of their civilization. You look at these people living in these villages and you wonder, what is their past? Do they have a past? What lies behind it all? They have nothing but a few straw buildings, nothing but a few cattle. It seems quite inconsiderable. The Dinka, for example, have no stone in their country. They have almost no metal. Half their country is underwater half the year. They cannot build and could never possibly build an imposing material civilization, but their achievement was, of course, to learn how to master their environment, and this they have done with quite outstanding success, so that the outside picture, the superficial picture, gives no...
And you can always tell we're African about their features. We don't look nothing like these people, man. We don't have the same skin, we don't have the same phenotype as these people. But they always got trying to put us and say that we are these people. Stop it, man.
Indication at all of the depth of their culture. These are the people who have mastered the problems of taming this difficult, vast continent with all its extraordinarily great obstacles to living, its swamps, its deserts, its mountains, and its forests. The story of Africa over the last 2,000 years has been one of quite epic dimensions.
Africa. Endless deserts, scorching and windswept by day, bitterly cold at night. And the Sahara, the world's largest desert, a harsh, bleak expanse of land, challenging anyone to cross it. Snow-capped mountains near the equator, gigantic waterfalls, in the jungle mists and rain almost daily. These were some of the barriers to penetration. To the outside world, it was the dark continent, a land of mystery, where stories were spread of giants and dwarfs, of people whose heads grew under their arms, of monstrous animals.
You hear this, man? These people be coming up with some crazy stuff, man. Just making up anything.
It is here, in this forbidding other world, that what may be the remains of the first man were discovered.
Indoctrination.
In 1959, in Tanganyika, a scientific expedition had been digging for weeks in the sun-baked earth, looking for traces of the earliest man. Then, in July, Dr. Louis Leakey and his team found what he called Zinjanthropus.
So it so happened they do dig while they're digging, and so happened just to find something. Oh, it's just the first human right here. He's just making up anything, man. Too far for it.
Nicknamed the Nutcracker Man because of the strength of his jaws. He was about 600,000 years old, and maybe the creature that makes Africa the real cradle of mankind.
And I tell you, indoctrination. That's how it all started. 1900s.
The records of ancient Africa begin with Egypt about 3000 BC. Its spectacular achievements of the monumental pyramid and brooding sphinx have always been credited to Asia and the Mediterranean. But there is growing evidence that Egypt owes more than originally thought to the land to the south, Kush, the land of the Negroes. About 700 BC, Kushite kings conquer Egypt and become the 25th dynasty. Little is known today about the land of Kush.
And here they go with these
But in
fake
the ancient
timelines.
world, it was highly
And
respected.
that people this stuff happening. This is all
In
indoctrination.
1791, the French philosopher Count de Varney wrote of the Kushites.
Where's the
people
records at?
Now forgotten.
It ain't none.
Discovered while others were yet
Nations.
barbarians the elements of arts and the sciences. Then, in about 325 AD, Kush is attacked and destroyed and disappears from our view. For the rest of Africa, there is little we can say for certain. Except for the Kushites, Africans had no writing. They kept in their memories the history of their people. Stories narrated down from generation to
Little
generation.
acting features. Look at the structures.
This
We don't know about these
oral
people.
tradition must tell us much of the history that will fill the gaps in our knowledge.
In the Western Sudan, Negro kingdoms arise in the medieval periods of walled and fortified cities, markets, and fairs.
All this stuff that they're teaching the Aboriginal people in America. All this stuff, indoctrination. This is how it happened.
Ghana is the earliest of these civilizations, going back to 300 AD.
In the 8th century, an Arab writer tells us that the Arabs sent an expedition to this pagan land of gold. African markets, the main source of gold before the discovery of America.
Now, see, these are the real people telling their story.
1067, Arabs from the north, fired by their new faith, storm into the Western Sudan.
I'm gonna fast forward. I'm gonna get back to the school. This is African. This African man trying to teach us the history about them. Where is it at? Here we go. Let's go back right here.
What have been the cultural contributions of African peoples to the rest of the world? Then, of course, we are faced immediately with the remarkably original and outstanding quality of their plastic arts. The most important art in Africa has, of course, been dancing. And
I'm gonna get back to here we go. I'm gonna get back to this part right here.
Of African civilizations. And there are wide gaps in our knowledge. Among the riddles of ancient Africa are, where did the Negro come from? What happened to the Kushites after their defeat? Where did the sculptors of Benin learn their remarkable skills? We haven't even begun to penetrate some of these mysteries. Yet, growing knowledge and interest in Africa is rediscovering a world we never knew. And many
You didn't know it
Negroes
until the people came over here and
are
started teaching me.
examining for the first time the values that were lost.
My name is Eula Mazik, and I'm addressing my question to Mr. Clark. I want to know what happened to the so-called Negro culture in America.
Exactly. That's what they want. That's exactly the question that our people should be asking. She ain't really falling for the tricks. So they're trying to teach you about some culture all the way from Africa when we have culture already here. See how the indoctrination started? They want you to forget the culture that was already here and all people that was already here. They want you to think about some African culture that has nothing to do with our people. This is all indoctrination. This is how it started. This is how we lost our identity. By getting taught in school that we was the slaves. Some people did get captured, but they was indigenous. They was already here. And then you had some African slaves coming in that were really mostly the slaves, and they kind of intermixed. And then when some of the people intermixed, that's what created the person that was half indigenous, half African origin. But not like most of the population, that whole African thing had nothing to do with us because our ancestors are already here. We can prove that. We can go back to 1790. We was here before the Native Americans. Native Americans don't come up on the paperwork to 1830s, 1860s. So what's going on here? People got to think.
The most tragic destruction of African culture.
And he the real African trying to teach us about history.
The African culture brought to these shores, brought to America's shores. Now, the first thing they did was to forbid the drum, forbid all African ceremonies, forbid African ornaments, literally.
And the girl she asked about American culture. He going back to African culture. See this?
Destroy.
He not even asking the question.
That they had to be remade in an American image. This was not exactly true in the West Indies. It was slavery, make no mistake about it. But because it was on an island, many of the Africans could communicate with each other and maintain some of the African culture, while in the United States it was impossible. Because as they arrived, mother, brother, sister were split up and they went in opposite directions. Then they were resold. They might have been resold within a matter of days after they were sold the last time.
Which did happen, but they have problems like this.
To keep track of each other. And it was difficult for a continuity to be maintained in African culture. This was the beginning of the fragmenting of our family in this country. It was also the beginning of the demeaning and the negation of the masculinity of the black male in America. This demeaning of our culture and this reading us out of the commentary of human history has left deep psychological scars. What we are trying to do now is a massive job of rebuilding the inside, the spirits, the hopes, the history, the culture of a people. We're trying to restore those values.
There's no problem with that. Don't put that on us. We not y'all.
Get across to black youth that they have a part to play in the making of a new world. They have the imagination, they have the energy. You must first restore that part of yourself that has been negated by oppression. It is as essential to you as bread and water. It is part of the food that must feed your spirit and the world of tomorrow. It is part of what you will have to transfer to your children.
You see that? And that's exactly what happened. That's how we got indoctrinated. Vicious cycle. That's how it happened. Indoctrination, man. All the films and all the real Africans trying to teach us our history, when we're not the same people, this is how it happened. And this is how it continued to get passed down. Indoctrination. So I hope you guys seeing that. I don't know what else I can say. I'm showing you how they did it. How people got indoctrinated. But yeah, I want y'all guys to think about that. And on one of the next videos I'm going to talk about the real African slave trade that happened. When you look at the real records, the real African slave trade happened in 1780. And it only lasted about 30 to 40 years. So once I drop that information, it's done with. I ain't trying to hear no more about us being African. when I already debunked it in the translated slave trade video I debunked it. So all that Pan-Africanism is dead with. It's over. I'm looking at everybody up on this. But yeah, man, I thank you guys for your time. You guys enjoy your rest of your day. And we're trying to drop more videos like this. This will wake you guys up. I'm going to be showing a lot of videos of our people, like 1830 videos of how our people and ancestors was living here. So yeah, thank you for your guys' time. You guys enjoy your day.
Yo, you never see black light. Black like this. Black like black girls, front porch, braiding hair, stay still stay, inhale, breathing in, gelled up, weaved up, ashy knees, greased up, freeze pops, the block hot head shots, don't freeze up, nah. I watch my pen as it bled. If you need a bodyguard, that means you already dead. Live life, you got street cred, but living in debt. Leave you in the red, followers always seem to get lit. Shell cases on the playground, we play round, niggas who don't play round. Trying to come up and still stay down. Black light not having shit. Black light shopping with my mama mean, don't ask for shit. Brothers start a fight now. Damn, all our asses whipped. It's ironic how we learned it from master, but we mastered it. First ones to last through it. Had to fast, didn't have funds. Watching good times through bad ones. Hit the corner store and then we steal from it. I got some food for thought, I'd make a meal from it. Adolescence is my adolescence. It makes sense since they 2 cents a bad investment. See this black like rap songs, black like trap stars, black like crackheads, black like crack cards, black like better watch your mouth in your mama house. Black like I brought you in this world and I could take you out. Spending summers at my grandmother's, 10 of us. Baby, watch your hand, ain't no fan cover, share covers, man. Share ebony and essence. Get caught cussing, now my cousin like I'm telling.
I heard Andre cussing. He said the S word, the B word, the F word. He definitely said the F word.
Obama picture next to white Jesus. Them white teachers couldn't quite reach us. They couldn't see we doing wrong for the right reasons. Came from slums, I slang change like Shang Tsung name from same family tree. Ropes would hang from same ones hooping in the alley. Same ones when they shoot the parties, then we start running. 23rd song tatted on their arms. Went from spinning bars to trying to get in bars. Now they sitting in the bars. Prison pipeline, blind to white crime. Quick to take a cliff from a Rudy in the nighttime. Damn. Life is but a song, try to sing along. Nana called, told me God called my auntie home. Pouring liquor, see the streets is like an alcoholic. Calling women hoes till we end up having daughters. I guess they call it karma. Joy and pain, love and hate, either way. Granny say, God don't make mistakes. Black like gangsters, black like my cousin them. Black like old soul, black like dropping gems. Black like Cadillacs, black like used Impalas. Black like black love, black like baby mamas. Black like I was born with rhythm. Black like the elders in eternal wisdom. Black like I'll be there in 5 minutes. Black like cop kill a nigga and get acquitted. Damn. What's blacker than that? Yo, you never seen black like this.
Ain't nothing like being black. Black is beautiful.
Yo, you never seen black like this.
Black